Hello, I am Nicholas Cobb, and I just wanted to today talk about my theories on level design and go over a level I myself have made. The idea behind this level is that it is themed around having cannons on rails. So because of that, I decided to start out the level by putting this little segment here, where there's just a solid ground with the one cannon, as well as the singular rail with a coin across, to show the player that the main idea here is that they will be taking the cannons and using them as moving platforms. I also decided to put a Goomba in the cannon here to show that there will be things other than just the standard bullet bills coming out of these cannons. Once the players grasp the concept of the cannons on rails in this section here, they'll move on up these stairs, kind of symbolizing a little progression into the actualization of the level, over here into a slightly more difficult segment with these two bullet bill cannons on a downward sloping rail. These cannons both contain the standard bullet bill enemy, as they will be used for that purpose slightly later on. The reason for having the two cannons here is because from the standpoint they are given here, the player cannot immediately see the ground underneath, so it seems like a more dangerous segment than it is. So I provided two platforms for them to land on, although there is actually the safety of the ground underneath it if they fall off. From there, the player is given their first option in the level, where they can decide what they want to actually do with it. I find this important because I think it's good to have a little bit of player choice, even in a simple side-scrolling platform puzzle like this one. So if they make it on top of the bullet bills, they'd have the option to move themselves, to jump off of the cannons, and land themselves up onto this platform. As a reward for doing so, they would be granted the chance to get these item blocks, one of which will contain a better item than they will be able to get in any other point of the level. Moving on from there, you saw what I just did using the bullet bill and bouncing off of it. This trail of coins is meant to suggest to the player that when they're standing here, hey, there's something off to this side that you'll be able to get, if you can find the way up there. That's why these cannons here were placed with regular bullet bills, as they're used as a mini platforming challenge for the player if they choose to come up this way. As a reward for this segment and getting through that part, I provide the player with the same better item once again, as well as the one-up mushrooms, as well as a little bonus animation there for just to kind of show the height that they're going to. Once in here, I decided that it would be no fun to make it too easy, so I have the standard cannon moving around here, shooting just the one-up mushrooms, the one that I was riding on, as well as the regular cannon shooting bullet bills, and the two underneath here, namely this cannon on the right and this cannon on the left, shooting the piranha plants to discourage the player from just hiding out underneath the bottom here, but still giving them the option to go down, say if they want to pick up one of the one-up mushrooms that drop out of this cannon, or if they just want a small break or fall. The coins guide the player that the best path through this section is to ride the cannon once again, and once they make it through, as these stairs right here come to a somewhat abrupt halt and they cannot see the ground, I provide this trail of coins to show them the way down to the next segment. Now, if the player had not been able to make it up through that pathway right there, they would have been taking this route. So what I do here is, right before I step up the challenge, I provide the player with a slightly easier version, but also a small twist to the challenge that had been presented earlier, with this cannon now containing the Koopa Troopa enemy, as I will show here. These enemies are ones that will continue walking, and as a result will actually occasionally land on this platform. This provides an additional platforming challenge, as well as providing a little twist to the initial challenge at hand. Now, once they make it past this segment, I provide the introduction to two different concepts that are used in this next segment. I provide the concept of a spike ball on top of the rail, which the player must get around by getting onto this cannon and then jumping onto this one, using the second concept, new twist presented here, being two cannons on two separate rails placed next to each other. This is put into one of the hardest challenges as we're approaching the end of the level in this segment here, where the player must start out on this cannon and then interchangeably jump between these two cannons to get around these 4 pairs of spikes here to finally make it through the segment. Once the player is able to do so, they will be rewarded with a small mushroom just to make up for any damage they might have taken in this segment, as well as a checkpoint for coming back to at the end of if they are to die on the last segment of the level. The last segment of this level is the final twist to the mechanic of having cannons on rails. Within this, it becomes a mini roller coaster in a way, where the player must ride the cannon up this rail and through this mini series of challenges, which include jumping over the spike balls provided here, as well as dodging the projectiles from this enemy thrown here, as they go down the zigzag. If they're able to make it through that, as well as these 2 small jumps over the final spikes, they'll be presented with a small reward in the form of this cannon shooting coins for once, giving the player a little bonus kind of fun segment just for getting through the final big segment of the level. Once they're able to make it through there, they will reach this end pipe, and going down it, they will have reached the end of the level. At this last point, I decided to just leave a little string of coins here, providing, this is just a small extra note, just providing a small little string of coins which have this little sound effect here, which when activated it just seemed like a little fun way to finish up the entirety of the level. So when the player falls down and ends in the goal, they will complete the level and finished all of the challenges presented. So overall, the general concepts I like to follow when building a level like this is first, I like to present the concept as it is in a safe environment for the player to understand, and then escalate that a small piece. By providing the player options, it gives the player a feeling of choice and control over the level that they're playing, and if they're able to master a slightly more difficult challenge, they get the reward of getting a secondary pathway. Should they not, they'll get the meat of the level, and this is something that the player will mostly only discover on a second playthrough, so on most times they will go through this difficult platforming segment, but will be rewarded for doing so with a checkpoint to continue on through the level. Afterwards, the player is provided with their final challenge, which is the longest string, and as you may have noticed, this is the longest segment that the player gets no save points, where no area in this level has any where the player cannot be hit, and provides that final challenge before they get the extra reward and get sent back to finish out the level. And now that I've shown my personal design on the level, I will show a video of myself doing a playthrough and completion of the level so you see how it plays through when being done by an actual player. And that is my level design for Super Mario Maker, and thank you for listening.